or to work to find a way to get our teacher pay competitive with our neighbors and good neighborhoods, continuing to build great schools, and great schools to build great neighborhoods, than Van Ayres. 1997, just a few years ago, he finished in chemistry at the University of Tampa and promptly took that genius in chemistry to Blake High School, inasmuch as his mom and dad were both teachers. Dad for 33 years at Blake, and Mom was principal at King and Sickles in her glorious career, as Van Ayres then moved on at Blake High School after teaching chemistry to eventually return to his alma mater, where he played sports at Jefferson to become their principal, and then to advance in the school system to be in charge of innovation, community relations, our interface with our military at McNeil. No one could be more prepared by their heart and their mind to be our superintendent of our schools than Van Ayres.
I think Ron knows more about me than I know about myself. That's impressive. But coming around to right now is a handout. I like to kind of go, we'll kind of move through this together, some visuals I kind of want to share, so we'll kind of move this together. But hard to believe, we started school on a Monday, so this is actually our 15th day of school now that we're coming up on the end of 3 weeks, and time is moving quick. We're already at the end of this quarter. However, we are, if you look, in Hillsborough County, people don't realize we're the 7th largest school district in the nation. When you talk about New York, you talk about Broward, you talk about Las Vegas, we are right there at number 7. Over 218,000 students in Hillsborough County Public Schools, so it's a very, very large growing school district. We are also the largest employer in Hillsborough County. Some people don't realize that. So over 23,000 employees that are part of Hillsborough County Public Schools. We're also a growing school district. So in 2025, actually next year, we'll have 2 more schools. We're opening one in Waimama, $170 million building that will be completed in Waimama. Our high schools are very packed. We got a lot of students. So we are, in Waimama, Sumner and Leonard are over capacity, so that Waimama school will help the growth and development there. I heard Plant City back there. We're opening up a vocational center in Plant City as well. Another fun fact, people don't realize, we transport on our bus system, on our buses, we have almost 220,000 students. We transport 78,000 students a day in Hillsborough County Public Schools. 78,000. Put that in perspective with Tampa International Airport, their busiest month is March, and they transport 80,000 a day. So it kind of puts in perspective what a large driver we are in Hillsborough County. There's another, somebody may have heard this, but another fact. Student safety is always a top priority, and we installed this past year on our buses. We have about 800 buses that are out in our fleet. We install on our buses, we have these motion cameras, basically, that when the stop arm goes out, what are you supposed to do? Stop. Well, what has happened is, around the nation, people that move past when that stop arm goes out that create violations, we've had, it creates students that are not safe going to and from school. So listen to this fact. In Hillsborough County, within the first 4 days of school, so I'll preface this with within the first month, right? Within that first month, we have, we're basically doing warnings with the Hillsborough County Sheriffs. We had, in the first 4 days of school, where you would think people would be more apt to know that buses are out and stopping, we had, guys, 2,400 warnings within the first 4 days of school. 2,400. So, if you don't get anything else out of today, from me, if you can pass the word, but not, so after these 30 days, we'll start issuing citations as well. Hillsborough County Sheriff's School, but it's all about changing behavior for our students and keeping our students safe. If you've got this in front of you, if you want to move to the next slide there's just a breakdown of Hillsborough County Public Schools and our personnel. People often ask, well, what is that? We say we have 23,000 employees. What does that look like? We have over 13,000 teachers, Support personnel, you can see now over 9,000. When we say support personnel, what does that mean? Those are our bus drivers, our custodial workers, secretary, those are our support personnel, and you see our principals and district administration listed there. We could flip to the next around. This is the end of year one for me as superintendent, and I will tell you, it has been an outstanding, outstanding year. In Hillsborough County, when I took over last year, we had 84% of our schools that were graded A, B, or C. 84%. In 1 year, we've moved that needle to 96.5% of all of our schools in Hillsborough County. 96.5% are graded A, B, or C currently. We have moved the needle tremendously, the growth that we've seen in our schools. We currently sit with 0 Fs. We have 8 D schools, and those Ds, we have 2 or 3 who are right on the brinks of moving that up. So when you start to hear in within public schools, there's a narrative that gets out there. With the state accountability system, we're held accountable for every student in the state, in Hillsborough County, accountable for all. 96.5% of all of our schools, 96.5, graded A, B, or C. We had 5 schools that moved up to an A, 4 schools that moved up to a B, so tremendous, tremendous growth there as well. Big push in Hillsborough County. I often say, when you want to measure a school district and its effectiveness, there's one metric that the public needs to realize, and it's one metric, and that is around 3rd grade reading proficiency. That's it. 3rd grade reading proficiency, and here's why. When students are from the time you're 3 years old, from pre-K up to 3rd grade, you've possibly heard me say this before, from that time, students are learning how to read. Right? They learn to read. After grade 3 is complete, that switch flips from learning to read to reading to learn. We're very proud in Hillsborough County Public Schools that we have done tremendous work in 1 year around changing the way we teach reading, around the science of reading, similar, I look around the room, the way we learn how to read with phonics, science of reading, sounds, what we call sound recognition. We had a 5% jump in Hillsborough County Public Schools in 1 year. So we're very proud of that number. Yes, thank you. So as you look at Hillsborough County Schools, and I'm all about accountability, holding me accountable to metrics. Metrics around number of schools that are graded A, B, and C, and then 2, 3rd grade proficiency. How many of our students are proficient in 3rd grade? And that number moved up 5 points. Here's the sad news. We only sit at 51%. Fact. We sit at 51% of all of our students are proficient in 3rd grade, 51%. To put that in perspective, Pinellas County sits at, they're one of the highest, they sit at 62%. So they got 11 points on us. They've been teaching science and reading for a number of years. They've got some additional millage monies that they use for different things we'll talk about in a minute, but they're 11 points higher than us in 3rd grade proficiency. So key metric is around 3rd grade proficiency. How many students by grade 3 are proficient? And the other part of the 3rd grade, if you're proficient in 3rd grade, what do you think happens to graduation rates? They graduate on time. We did a study in Hillsborough County, students proficient in 3rd grade, 98% of them graduate on time with their peers. Fact. So metric to know, graduation rate, back it up to 3rd grade proficiency, where are we at? And then finally, where we work with our Early Learning Coalition Children's Board, is around having every student in Hillsborough County, which we're not at now, every student ready for kindergarten. Our kindergarten readiness numbers is an area that we're working to boost those numbers as well. So that way, when students enter, everyone's on that same level playing field and starting at that same spot. If you look to the right-hand side around some academic achievements, you'll see we had tremendous growth, and I say this quite often, our high schools, and I talked to a lot of in the room, our high schools, I'll put our high schools in this county against any schools anywhere in the state of Florida, public, private, in the nation, for what our students were able to succeed, how they're able to succeed, and the opportunities that are placed in front of them. Currently, right now, if you look onto the right-hand side there, we had in our advanced placement just last year, and these results were just released, we had an 8% jump in AP passing scores. So we moved from 58, so these are all students that took the AP exam, we moved from 58 to 66% in 1 year. That is incredible. Basically, that outraces any number that we've ever had as far, thank you. any number that we've had in this district to have an 8% jump in advanced placement scores. As many of you know, we have AP, we have IB opportunities in all of our high schools as well. And for the first time this past year, we offer, you guys ever heard of ACE Cambridge? ACE Cambridge is similar to advanced placement, IB. It offers accelerated opportunities, basically college credit. So no matter where you enroll in Hillsborough County as a 9th grader, every student is on that same level playing field, has that equal opportunity to earn college credit from the day they enter 9th grade. So if you look at some of the numbers, overall, if you add up all of our between AP, IB, we had this past year last bullet, over 72,000 accelerated opportunities for our students. And just to put that in perspective, every cohort in Hillsborough County is about 14 to 15,000 students. So when you think incoming kindergartners, how many is that? It's about 14 to 15,000 students that enter kindergarten, and that cohort basically stays the same throughout. So if we can flip to this one right here, I'll show you. This is the vision for what it takes to drive student achievement. And I'm on the slide, this is five levers that drive student achievement. These are the 5 factors that as superintendent of the 7th largest school district, as I sit here, what are the conditions that I must create in order to have the best school district in this entire country? Because we're moving in that direction. And number 1, all the research says, no matter where you look, it comes down to what? I'm looking for Steve Acosta, who's strategically together. Is the classroom teacher. Classroom teacher. You can take a highly effective classroom teacher, place them outside under a tree out here, and guess what's going to happen? Students are going to learn, right? Classroom teacher. Regardless of all the things we talk about, to have a highly qualified teacher in every classroom is the number 1 factor that drives me. That's what I lose sleep up over at night, is not having that highly effective teacher over time. I have pockets where I have vacancies, and I don't have that, and that's where I strive to get to. Number 2, as you look there, is around the school leader. So obviously the school leader, that's what drives our schools, having great school leaders in our schools, the instruction we provide. Number 4, where I can also use some help, is around attendance. We have started a campaign now around attendance matters in Hillsborough County Public Schools. All right? Here's why. Ever since the pandemic, student attendance across this nation, particularly in Hillsborough County Public Schools, is awful. It's bad. Chronic absenteeism, and let me give you a number to put that in perspective. Chronic absenteeism is defined as students that miss more than 10% of school days. 10%. So, how many days in the school year? 180. So these are students that miss 18 or more days in a school year. What does that equal? That's 2 a month. Currently in Hillsborough County, elementary, 29% of elementary kids in this county are chronically absent. 29%. You think it's better or worse in middle school? Worse. Better or worse in high school? Worse. It goes from like 29 to 32 to 34 by grade levels for student attendance. And this is where we really started to notice this. This is where I'm going to need some help in this community. Gone are the days when we, as I look around the room, when we were in school, was there an excuse? No. You went to school, right? There was no excuses. You went to school. That has changed over the last number of years. Particularly, again, this is a Hillsborough County problem, but it's also nationwide. We've got to flip that narrative to student attendance. No matter what I talk about today, and have great teachers and have great leaders, if students aren't in seats, it's the number 1 factor. You know, as you look on to being successful in life, being successful in college, it's the number 1 predictor of academic performance, attendance. Number 1 predictor of academic performance is attendance. Okay? And then finally, family and community engagement. So if we could flip. So you've got my vision for my 5 levers. What are the conditions that I must create to have this the best school district in the nation? Here's the solid foundation. It starts with the 78,000 students I talked about. Every single one of them getting picked up on time, taken to school on time, and taken home on time. We're doing much better this year. Our transportation department, with the number of drivers, I sat last year with the 800 scheduled routes. I had 600 drivers last year. I have about 700 drivers now, so I'm still about 100 short. What that creates is I have these routes, so I have drivers that have to do what? Term we use, double runs is what we call them, where they have to take, drop off, and go. And that in turn turns into about 15, could be more, but about 15 minutes of students that are late to school because they're not having enough drivers. We're doing a lot better this year than we have in the past, but that's still an area for me, a condition I must create. Second on there is around what we've already talked about, which is a highly qualified teacher in every single classroom over time. That's the other condition I must create. And finally, what we do a really good job in Hillsborough County, I know a lot of you have been to Hillsborough County schools, it's the culture that we create in our schools every day for our students, for them to be able to be successful. So that leads me to, if we could flip to the next slide. That leads me to this. You have seen, and remember, a lot of you in this room were here in 2022, there was a millage referendum that was placed on the ballot. It was in a primary election that failed by people 500 or 600 votes. Hillsborough County Public Schools, this millage referendum is for operational costs. So I want to separate that first. This is for how we operate a school district. 85 to 90% of our operating costs, we're a people business. We need teachers, we need school leaders. 85 to 90% of our operating costs are salaries. Okay? 85 to 90% are salaries. So when I talk about we're building new schools, right? That is not our operating costs. That's capital, which I'll try to touch on just in a minute. So these are two separate things. Hillsborough County Public Schools, if you take a look at the map and then we'll move to the next slide. This is our current situation of what it looks like in the state of Florida for counties that have additional dollars for operating costs. So you have the visual map there, right? And I want you now to flip to the next page, please. And this is the one I really need to talk to. Does everyone see the blue bar that goes across the bottom? You see how it's equal for everyone? Every district in the state of Florida we have a system in the state of Florida that we are funded by the state, and this system is called the FEFE, right? And it's a good system because you know what it does? Is it equalizes funding across school districts. Here's why the blue is the same. It basically takes and says, okay, Monroe County in the Keys, or Sarasota County, that has high property values and not a lot of kids, and it equalizes it across. So it basically creates a fair system so that monies are equalized across the state. And by the way, millage rates are not set by the school board. They are set the same across the state of Florida. So all of our capital millage rates, all of our millage rates, we're going to have a trim notice board meeting next Thursday, they're all set by the state of Florida. So if you look at that, the blue that's across, what you'll notice there is it's equalized funding across the state of Florida. What has happened, and it started in 2004 in Pinellas, and we can look at Pinellas first. If you look at Pinellas, Pinellas has had a half mil. When I talk these half mils, 1 mils, these are all on top of that blue bar. It's all extra funding that's provided to school districts. By statute, local counties can levy up to an additional mil for operating costs. What has happened is the following. Hillsborough County, we're the third largest school district in the state of Florida. Miami-Dade is number one. They passed the millage referendum in 2018. They generate another $487 million a year on top of that blue bar. And guess what they utilize it for? Salaries. They provide best classroom experience possible for kids because they're able to recruit and retain teachers. They have more money, right? Within their operating dollars. Miami-Dade passed in 2018. Broward passed it in 2018. Hillsborough County still sits with no additional monies on the operating side. And then finally, Orange County and Palm Beach all passed theirs in 2010. Think back to the visual on the last slide around surrounding school districts. It is on the ballot in Hernando. Hernando County has had an additional mill since 2020. I think theirs was 2020 they passed theirs. They'll be on the ballot to renew their mill. Pinellas, remember I said Pinellas has had half a mil since 2004. It is on their ballot. They have taken their half a mil and they've upped it to a full mil. Okay? So they've upped theirs as well. So where we sit in Hillsborough County, I've got surrounding school districts that all have additional money. So mentally visualize the yellow that's there on that graph on top. These are additional monies that the school district in Hillsborough County does not have access to. That is why I will tell you where it scares me, number one, with Pinellas jumping to a full mill, because what do you think they're going to do with salaries? They already pay more. You add the full mill on top, they're going to pay even more. It's going to be hard for us to keep up. In Manatee County, currently, in Manatee County with that full mill, where majority of my vacancies are a lot in that South County, Leonard, right? Shields, South County. I lose teachers. I'm not losing teachers, guys, that live in Brandon or Carrollwood that are driving to Manatee County. But where I do lose them, I lose them that live in that South County part, that live in Apollo Beach, that then drive down to Manatee County for positions. And guess what? They know it, and they recruit like heck to try to get our teachers to come over. Starting salary in Manatee County is $57,000 a year. In Hillsborough County, it is now $48,000 a year. So if we look, again, I got one. If we look across the top here, I also want to make mention to that as you look at millage, the additional mill, similar to our property tax across the state, similar to our capital, it's a 1.5 mil. This additional mill is not the same. You will hear terms in funding for the state of Florida. You hear property poor, student rich, meaning property values aren't as high and they have lots of students, and that's Hillsborough County. And you've got counties like, and I'll take your eyes over to Sarasota. Sarasota County is a classic example of a property rich, student poor. Not that their students don't have money, but they don't have lots of them. So that mill in Sarasota, and if we take a look, that mill, you see how the mill in Sarasota generates $104 million extra per year? That $104 million, they have only 49,000 kids. So when you average that out, it is an additional $2,149 per student on top of that blue. So it still creates, even within the system, when you have more millage on top, that's where you then get into property-rich school districts that then can generate more dollars. Here we sit in Hillsborough County, we've had it zero forever. We don't have this additional revenue in dollars. That's why we currently, we have the most vacancies in the state of Florida. Now, again, we're the third largest, so we have more teachers, so in aspect we could have more vacancies, but we still have more vacancies in Miami-Dade and Broward that have this additional millage up front. So in the end, what my ask has been is the opportunity for our voters to make the decision in November on whether or not this additional millage monies for operating costs would be allowed for Hillsborough County. What that would go to, we'll flip some slides now, and then we'll almost done, we'll take some questions. So you can see, it's also in here now, is just some other salaries that are listed there. You can see what I made a mention of the Manatee starting teacher salary, where the 10-year teacher is. I mentioned bus driver as well. What keeps, I look around the room, people that have been in Tampa for a long time. What keeps Hillsborough County, thriving, doing well, the numbers that I mentioned earlier, are the teachers, employees that have been in this district for 15, 20, 25 years. I see them all the time. Those are the ones that are keeping us moving in the right direction. Where my fear is I'm reaching a cliff, right? And it's how are we in Hillsborough County drawing in the 22, 23, 24-year-old that just graduated college, and how do we become competitive with them so that they join as a teacher or whatever profession, and then have the opportunity for that career ladder and grow in Hillsborough County. So you can see there for current salaries. keep moving, you'll see what the millage would allow us to do. So I often get the question, well, what if it does pass in November, what then? It has been my proposal from the beginning, and in the end, this is ultimately negotiated with our unions. We talked through this, but we are all on the same page. I wanted this to be very clear that 90% of these dollars would go towards salaries for employees. So it'd be towards teachers. Every teacher in Hillsborough County would receive a $6,000 supplement. So the starting teacher pay moves from 48 to 54. For the 10-year teacher that's making, I'm throwing a number, I don't know, top 58, they'll be making then 64. Okay? For our bus drivers that I talked about earlier, our support personnel, that is a $3,000 supplement on top. Why we call it a supplement, and again, some of the questions you can help get the word out. This all, even though the supplements, it still counts towards the Florida retirement system. The reason it's a supplement is because this millage referendum, and we be clear on this, is every 4 years. So that's why in Commando they have to come back every 4 years, and also they're going to come out. So every 4 years, if this were to pass in November, it comes back to voters again in 4 years. It comes back in 20 years, come back again in 28, 32. This additional, this millage referendum would come back to voters. That's why it's a supplement. One other factor, we'll move to this one. Besides the 90%, which would go to salaries for employees to recruit and retain the best talent, so our students have the best classroom experience possible in Hillsborough County and Hillsborough County that are anywhere in the state. In addition to that, what we will do is the following. I talked earlier about third grade proficiency and kindergarten readiness. We do not have in Hillsborough County enough students that are starting when the day they enter kindergarten ready for kindergarten. As you start to get ready for school, that really starts at 3 years old. Sort of our Head Start programs come up, the level of field, it starts at 3. The state of Florida funds, we all heard VPK, they fund half-day VPK. Within this millage referendum, we offer in Hillsborough County about 2,000 seats for VPK, right? I don't have enough seats. I would love to offer 15,000, but I don't have 15,000 seats. So that's where we use a lot of our private providers. But in Hillsborough County, if you were a 4-year-old and you entered VPK with us, right? You entered VPK with us, you would be afforded that opportunity for not a half day, but a full day. So this millage would fund the other half, so it's a full day of VPK for all of our students that are in VPK, so we move from a half to a full. You'll see some other things in there around our college and career counselors, athletics and physical education, and finally, extended learning for the arts, where we have a learning field trip outside the classroom at every grade level. You're closing in, I'll take questions. Finally, what does this look like? If we can do this last one here, the investments in the community, what this looks like. We talked about what the mill would generate in Hillsborough County. The mill in Hillsborough County would generate $177 million. Important to know, by statute, by law, charter schools get the proportionate share. Okay? So charter schools, so if you are a student in a charter school or a teacher in a charter school, they get the proportionate share. We are a growing school district, so we have over 183,000 students that are part of Hillsborough County Public Schools. 35,000 in charter, 35,000. So that proportionate share for charter would turn out to be that 26.6 million dollars that goes from Hillsborough County and goes to our charter schools. So again, what that looks like for an additional mill, there is a calculator that's on the tax collector website, Property Appraiser, that shows what that would be, and the link is right there for you personally. But what that looks like, the mill is easy to understand. It's $1 for every 1,000. So the example we have there is a typical home value. So the median home in Hillsborough County right now is $306,000. There's a $25,000 homestead exemption, which takes the taxable value to $281,000. So that particular example, that homeowner would pay an additional $281 for this millage referendum. They would go towards students in Hillsborough County. Okay? And then finally, the last slide just talks about, this allows us to compete on behalf of our students. We would have similar to our half-penny sales tax on the capital side. This allows us to compete on behalf of our students, one, and two, we would have an oversight committee to ensure that those dollars that come in, the 177 that come in, that the 26 go to charter schools, and then our appropriate share that's very clear to the public, similar to our half-penny, that those dollars are spent appropriately. This, and this is my final, I'll take questions. This, for me, as you look at surrounding school districts in the state of Florida, the ones that surround Hillsborough and large school districts, this was a time I could not wait. The school board could not wait. We're at a place now, in order for us to remain competitive and to level this playing field with other school districts, we have to have this on the ballot and let our voters make that decision. I've born and raised here. I've been here. I'm going to turn 50 in a month. I don't take this lightly at all, and I understand the situation we're in currently. But as far as where we want to provide dollars, there is nothing more important than high-quality public schools in neighborhoods in this community. We've achieved great results, and we're going to keep getting better, and I can assure you of that. So I'll just be asking for, that confidence in the school district. We've done a lot of work over the last number of years to put us in this position. So this is about leveling the playing field, and I open up to any questions. So thank you.
I'm the CEO of Champions for Children, and I wanted to say I appreciated the through line that you brought back to those positive early childhood experiences before kindergarten, because that is the nature of the work that we do. So my question, with a question mark, is what's the greatest opportunity to help families prepare their children for kindergarten outside of formal learning, such as VPK or Head Start?
That's it really comes down to reading is the key metric. So it's how our families are able to provide that early reading for students from 3 years old. We see when students that have started at 3 years old within Head Start, those students that level that playing field out for 3 and 4 have such an equal opportunity by the time they get to kindergarten. For us, it's a challenge because we're not in so I'm not in the early childhood business. We're kindergarten through grade 12, so that's what we really provide, and the struggle has been over the last number of years is relying on our private providers, relying on the ELC, increasing that partnership. We used to only offer for VPK around 500 seats. We've tried to push that and squeeze VPK in, so we've got those numbers up to approximately 2,000 seats right now for VPK. So we've tried to push it on our end. The challenge for the school district again is I'm K through 12. I don't have enough seats to make sure that everybody's ready. And that's one of the biggest challenges of school districts is having students that are ready, everybody on that same level by the time they enter.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the total educational budget is $4 billion, and there has not been an audit by independent outside accountants since 2015. Some of us think that there is some excess money there. Would you consider having an audit?
Absolutely. So we had an audit. So the audit that you're speaking of was the Gibson report. So the Gibson audit was done in 2018. After that, in the year 2021, there was an audit that was conducted by the Council for Great City Schools. We were at the point of 2021 where we were operating in a deficit. We, over the last 2 years, we have operated in the black the last 2 years. We currently sit in Hillsborough County. We are in great financial shape. Our credit ratings have gone up twice in the last 2 years. It's gone up every single year. It will go up again this year. We currently we're going to have our trim notice in next Thursday. Our fund balance will sit at 21%. So that is over the last 2 years. We are in a we've been fiscally responsible the last 3 years to put us in that position. But absolutely, I would be open to, yes, sir.
2020, the budget was about $3-something billion. Now we're at 4.3, right around that. That's a 25% increase over 4 years. My question is, what have we gotten over the last 4 years from that extra 25% increase, extra $1 billion if it didn't go to increasing teacher salaries? And then my follow-up question is, what is the number of a budget total that we need? Would be $5 billion, would be $7 billion, and what would be the operating budget that you would say we don't get more taxes?
Great question. So our operating budget, we operate within the budgets that's given to us by the state of Florida, and that's what we've done over the last 3 years, and is fiscally responsible with that. What has happened though is when I have other school districts that have additional monies on top of that, they are then creating a situation where there are more operating dollars and more monies for salaries that are given to they can pay their employees those additional monies. We operate within the budget. If this millage in November doesn't pass, we still operate within our current budget, and will do so. The challenge becomes is that we cannot then be competitive with salaries with other districts that have additional monies on top that are putting towards that. So we'll operate within our budget. We were successful last year because of the employees that we currently have that have been in this district for a long time. We can't be competitive when we are, and the example I always give is you go from a system that was almost NFL football fans like salary cap, you can only spend this money, to then a situation with millage where it turns into Major League Baseball and you have additional revenue that's used, and that's why teams like Yankees and Dodgers are always winning, because they have more money. We will operate the same way the Pittsburgh Pirates always field the team, right? And they're competitive. But there's certain, when you have additional monies on top, it creates a situation where you always have teams, in this example, that are able to recruit and pull the talent over, and that's why I have to keep the talent.
A lot of comparisons from us to other counties. When it comes to vacancies, where are we in Hillsborough County, and what does that look compared to, say, a neighboring county that pays that? What do those numbers look like?
Great question. So we currently sit at over 400 vacancies right now. So 400 vacancies. The challenge behind our vacancies is they are pockets. I have schools that have 1 or 2, and I have schools that have 10, right? So it comes to the pockets of them. It's hard to make a comparison because we're such a large school district, but in other school districts, it can be, 40, 50 in Manatee County as opposed to 400 with us. So it's hard to compare it that way because we're just so large. I have 13,000 teachers where they have, in Pinellas and Manatee, they have far less. Teacher vacancies, teachers is my number one criteria, and that's the one for salaries where I got to recruit and retain and bring those in. So the question to answer directly is we have approximately 400. Others still have vacancies, but it's substantially less.
Village question, and that is, you mentioned attendance, and what is your vision to improve attendance? And a follow-up question is, how do you hold parents accountable?
That's a great question. So how we are putting the word out around our Attendance Matters campaign from the school district. It goes then to being school specific and having students that want to go and attend school. So we have a whole campaign around getting students to school. The parents' accountability part, that's the challenge. That is the current challenge we have, is making sure that our parents see and that we as a district communicate that the number one indicator of academic performance is students being in the classroom and see. So parent accountability, that is, within the school district, as we teach all students, that's the number one.
Versus making it a misdemeanor or a felony.
Correct. Yeah.
Sorry we couldn't get to everyone. This has been a very passionate discussion. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week.